Hello everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto. This week I'm working on the 928 again, trying to get it ready for Radwood Northwest, which hopefully I'll see some of you guys there at Griot's Garage in August. So I'll be there. Hopefully the car will be. Ugh. Anyway, I drove it unintentionally this weekend. I was going to go to another event that I got the weekend wrong on. But I got an opportunity to take it out and drive it for 50 or 60 miles round trip. So what I figured out is that about 3,000 RPM and about 20% throttle, it just cuts out. Doesn't do anything. So that's not good. But I figured I got a couple issues. I'm going to go through them and start eliminating some problem children here in the car that seem to have cropped up. One is the fuel pump. The fuel pump howls. I can hear it inside the car while I'm driving. That's bad. Probably the original pump. So I'm going to cut it some slack. I ordered a new pump. It's not here yet. Should be here like Thursday. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the vacuum diaphragm in here. It's called a vacuum limiter, and I guess it's highly possible that it could just be bad. So I'll bring you guys a little closer and get the car running and show you what's up. Oh, how I hate this engine so. But I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck with it for the foreseeable future until I invent a new type of post-it note or something. So I've already pulled the intake tube off of this side just to make it a little easier to get around the engine bay. And the piece that we're talking about in the engine bay here is that little diaphragm disc job right there. I'll point to it with a screwdriver because I have one handy. It's this guy right here. And from what I've read on Rennlist, it seems to cause a fair amount of problems with it just going bad and then the diaphragm not holding vacuum. So we're going to delete it. Many people have done it, and it's a known fault area. But I'll show you one of the things the car is doing. I went through and reset the engine timing at 3,000 RPM to about 31 degrees advance. So that is good, but now I've got an idle problem. So I'm going to change microphones here, and then we will see if I can get some audio on that. I had to get a little crafty with the mic here, so I'm hoping this works. All right, so the issue we're having is a surging idle. And it does it when it's warm. But while we're waiting for this to warm up, we can go around and listen to the fuel pump, which is... So I'm standing about a creeper's width behind the car right now. And I do have the heat shield is off, but you can hear that fuel pump is screaming its last hurrah. Okay, so now you can see what it was doing. It just takes a while for the warm-up cycle. I know some of you are going to say that it might be the Thermo 2 switch here. It's not. This is a brand new Thermo 2 switch right here. And I've checked the wiring to it. The plug's been replaced. That is good. So I guess I'm going to have to start eliminating any opportunities for vacuum leaks, which is going to be the disc, which is really tough to get to. So I'm going to start by pulling this thing out and getting some vacuum caps. And once we get it out, we should be able to test it with a Mighty Vac and see if it actually does hold vacuum. But at that point, it's not really worth putting it back in. All right, I wish I could tell you how much fun that was. It actually wasn't bad. It was like a few minutes of me being frustrated about having to take the intake plenum off, because I just hate doing it. It's easy. It's 2 bolts, and then the whole thing pulls out, but I just get frustrated with having to take things apart just to take other things apart, which is part of the 928 lifestyle, regrettably. So if I can get lighting on here appropriately. So now I have 2 hoses I'm going to have to plug, which is right. Come on, come on. There we go. Almost got it. Right there. There's the smaller one and a larger one. So both of those are going to have to get plugged. And then this vacuum line right here gets plugged. I can either cap it off at the T underneath or just plug this line. But I also might test this guy right here while I have access to it. So I have a spare one of those I can put in. Okay, so if I plug it with my thumb and delete the bottle, my tool does pull vacuum, which is good. So now, we'll see if this well, that's a disappointment. It does appear to be holding vacuum as well, but we're deleting it anyway because it will eventually cause some problems. All right, so the next step will be to remove that, I think it's an idle regulator valve. It looks just like the one I have over here on the bench that I've been, there it is. Looks just like this. It's got a diaphragm inside of it, a little disc that rotates, I presume when it gets to a certain temperature, and an electrical signal output. So I got to figure out a way to test this thing. So that's going to take me a few minutes. All right, so I made it back from the auto parts store with a whole handful of these guys. And then I just dropped the one I needed completely under the center of the car. All right, so let's try this again. If you haven't seen what a 928 throttle body looks like, so this is it. This is the monster. Pretty decent size. This is the front. This is where your idle adjustment is. You got some vacuum ports on the front and the back. And these are the 2 ports we're dealing with here. So yeah, this is a big idle adjustment that goes into the throttle body there. So yeah, all we're gonna do, figured it'd be easier to show you here than it would be to show you down inside the spider. So it looks like, yeah, so we're just going to cap those off and throw some hose clamps on those down in the tunnel there, and that part will be done. All right, so I had to also remove the hose that goes from the oil filler down to the bottom of the throttle body, some kind of vent breather thing, so I could get my giant hands in there to get those caps on. But those are on. I've got a little vacuum cap and a little yellow vacuum cap right inside of there. You can see it on the T. So I shouldn't have any vacuum leaks from the stuff that I removed. Yay. So I looked around a little bit and found some videos on these auxiliary air valves. And apparently this is a 12-volt feed, and you can see here, now these are both at room temperature. So you can see here that one is, I don't know, a third to a half open. This one I've had 12 volts on for a couple of minutes, and it's completely closed. So that one seems to be working as designed. This is the one that came out of the vehicle. I'm going to put 12 volts on this, and I'm going to see what happens. Okay, to say that these things move at a glacial pace is a generous statement. But you can see, after I switched, this one is almost closed. And this one has been off the power for about the same amount of time, and it's starting to open back up. So tells me that they're working, that both of them are working. They just work for a very, very slow reason. I'm not sure what that is, but they both seem to be working. So I don't think that this was a part of the issue. But if you want to test your auxiliary air valve, that's how you do it. All right, so now the auxiliary air valve is back in the car, tucked in down there underneath the plenum. And the only thing left to do now is to put the air box back in with the throttle body, or sorry, airflow meter, and let her run for a bit and see what happens. All right, so for now it seems to be running normal-ish. It started doing the wavering idle again when I started it up, and then I revved it a couple times, and now it seems to be pretty stable. And if we look at the RPM, it's right about 1 grand. So I think I'm going to take it for a quick drive without you guys, and then see what it looks like when I get back. All right, here's the verdict after a quick test drive. I don't know why both my cars are cutting out at 3,500 RPM. The Rabbit loses boost at 3,500 RPM, probably a tuning issue. The Porsche loses power at about 3,200 RPM. Like, I can get on it, accelerates, and then it's bip, 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 and that's it. So I'm going to hold out judgment on this car until I replace the fuel pump, because it could be that that fuel pump is just dead. But I think I've made steps in the right direction, because now I do have a consistent idle. It still wants to die at stoplights. The tach it'll be running, and then it'll drop down and then catch itself and then come back to a decent idle. So there's still some issues that I need to work out with, like drivability. I can kind of live with that one. Why did they make the crank in the Maserati engine so high? Not a conclusive result. Progress is still progress. I've got the throttle body idle air screw turned all the way in, and it's still, it should be like 3.5 to 4.5 turns out. I can't remember exactly what the baseline starting point is. So that tells me that there's still some kind of vacuum leak somewhere. I probably have to hook the smoke machine back up and see what I can figure out. But it's hard to keep motivated on this project when I really just want to rip everything out, put like a 6-speed regular transmission in it with a regular rear diff, screw the 50-50 weight distribution, and tune it with a laptop. Until I'm able to confirm that I can do that without having to mess with all the steering rack geometry and all that stuff, here I am. I'm stuck with this 4.5 liter piece of garbage. 240 horse piece of garbage. Next step, swap the fuel pump. I would have to do that regardless of what engine I put in it anyway. So next time, let's do a fuel pump and see what we can do about if that is just the solution. I'd actually be happy with that. So that is all the time and patience that I have for the 928 today. Until next time, get out there and work on something.